Hello, and welcome back to the Saints Squad Show. I'm here with Dylan Sanders of Pelicans Roundtable and Saints Wire, and I'm just so shucking tired of this.
I'm Darian Gray of Who Dat Dish, and he had no other shucking choice.
This is former Saints wide receiver Lance Moore, and shuck it.
It's the Saints Squad. Everything New Orleans Saints, every week. Covering all the big hits and game-changing plays from down in the Big Easy, the way only Locked On Podcast Network can. Get ready and squad up. It's the Saints Squad Show, starting now.
Howdy, that nation, and welcome back to the Saints Squad Show, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Thank you for making us your first listen every Sunday and Wednesday. We have a unique group of experts here ready to bring you a fun and informative show on everything New Orleans Saints. Today, we're going to be diving into the loss that just happened. Spencer Rattler got shucked. Spencer Rattler got shucked, I guess is a good way to say it. He got benched in favor of Tyler Shough. The defense looked good, but that's kind of really it. And, even then they stopped trying, but who cares? I don't blame them. And the Saints have the first overall pick again. So there's a lot of fun stuff to talk about. We're going to get into it all today. Today's episode is brought to you by Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off your first purchase. All right, guys, let's get into the start of the show. We're going to go instant reactions. We'll have our Rattler bench Shough conversation. You can have that now too. Don't worry about that. We can talk about it all right now, and then get on throughout the show. But let's just start with our instant reactions to the 23-3 loss of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. And man, that was a lot. Let's start with Lance. How are you feeling right now?
Hey, man.
You know what he's thinking.
Look, I've been saying it for the last several weeks. I at the beginning of the season, I was coming in hot to these debates, talking about why we need to do X, Y, and Z to win all these games. Well, hey, the Jets did us a great favor today. And as it sits, we are the number one overall draft pick in the 2026 draft. That's great. That's the good news. The bad news is everything else that happened and unfolded in that football game today, outside of the defense putting up an effort today. I think the defense showed that they are capable of doing their part in a Saints game where we could potentially win. That was a winnable game. I know the final score doesn't look as such, but as far as the defense only giving up right around 200 yards, being able to get after Baker Mayfield a little bit, creating a turnover, those are the things that you want to see from your defense. Now, on the flip side of that coin, the offense was atrocious today. Sacks, penalties, obviously the turnovers, drop balls. I mean, whatever could have gone wrong did go wrong. And there really isn't a single thing that I think that we could hang our hat on, or a single player that we could say, you know what, they had a great game today. It just was one of those days that everything went opposite to the way that you would want it to go. No big plays. And you can swap out quarterbacks as much as you want. With the way that everybody else around them was playing, it didn't matter if Drew Brees was playing today. The supporting cast let the quarterbacks down. If you look at Spencer Rattler's numbers today, he only had 4 or 5 incompletions. It wasn't like he was awful, but the offense could not get anything consistent going. And at some point, as a head coach, I would have done the same thing that he did. I would have pulled him and just to see if Tyler Shough could give the offense a little kick. And I mean, it's more the same once he was in the game. Receivers dropping balls, guys fumbling balls, and you're not going to win many games like that. But I'm glass half full today, and I'm excited about us being in pole position for the number one overall draft pick. I mean, I think as bad as today was, there is a little beacon of good news as far as us sitting pretty as far as the draft goes.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I would say I have a bit of silver lining, not necessarily the same one. It's a little different. It's the defense. I felt, as Lance mentioned, they put forth an effort and they looked competent. They looked capable. And that was, in my opinion, not something I expected. I thought that coming into this game, Tampa Bay had two things that I thought would really mess up the Saints defense. They had a quarterback that likes to scramble and is difficult to tackle. I think we've seen the Saints defense struggle with that. And they have a guy who's a bona fide number one wide receiver in Ibuka. And I thought that he would tear up the Saints secondary. And neither one of those things ended up happening. Actually, I would say the Saints won both of those battles. So that was probably my biggest positive takeaway from this game. When it comes to the biggest storyline, however, Rattler versus Shough, I did see no real difference. I thought that Shough did like to target outside. I thought he had, quite a bit of out routes on just memory. So it was interesting to see what type of plays that they either called for him or what type of routes that he wanted to lean towards. I think that viewing it from you got put into the game in the middle of a matchup, this feels like more instinctual. So maybe that's just where his instincts and his most natural comfort would be. That's what I would say immediately. But I thought the Saints would look completely outclassed. I thought they would look like they didn't belong in this game with Tampa Bay. I would have predicted a comfortable victory. And yes, a comfortable victory for Tampa Bay. But that's what happened. But the defense didn't get exposed in the way that I expected. I thought that the offense played as badly as expected, but the defense played better. So if I want to go glass half full, I would look towards the defensive performance. And I'm looking forward, honestly, to breaking down that a little bit further. And most people didn't think we'd have anything to positively or look forward to breaking down out of this game.
The last two segments in general, I'm excited to talk about, honestly. I'd agree with you. I predicted a Saints victory on our last game, and I was very wrong about that. But I felt good about it going into the half. I was like, hey, it could happen. Like they put themselves in position to win at halftime, and then in the second half, man, just nothing got better. It didn't really feel like they were like, we've talked before about like the myth of halftime adjustments, but you want to see something different in the second half. I can
tell you right now, halftime adjustments aren't a myth. Like I've been in plenty of games where certain things in the game plan are not working, and a coach is like, "Hey, we're going to do X, Y, and Z, or we're going to change this to that," and like it works. And then you're like, "Oh shoot, we should have been doing this all along." So like it is a thing, but I feel like it's talked about too much. Like
that's what it was.
A bad team like this one can't go into the half and change everything that went wrong and reverse course, and then everything goes right, so you end up winning the game. I think that is something that's like, oh, we need to see them make adjustments at halftime. Well, you can't adjust every single thing out there, right? So like offensively, if nothing is working, you can't change everything. There's only a short window of time for you to talk X's and O's at halftime as it is. And I think as poorly as the offense played, I honestly don't think this was an X's and O's situation. This was they can't run the ball. This was they can't protect the quarterback. And this was receivers can't hold on to the football. And then you kind of add in there's no big plays, right? So you're making your life harder by not being able to do any of those things. People could be calling for Kellen Moore's head and saying his offense stinks, but like if the guys that are out there supposed to be executing his plays, if they can't execute them, then we're never going to get a good look at the offense anyway. So it's like, I didn't mean to cut you off, Dylan, but I just...
No, you're right. No, that's... I was going to go to you anyway. I was going to talk about that anyway, so...
Yeah, well, it's... They... And I don't want to say this, but to me, it looked like they lacked motivation. They just didn't look like they were excited to be out there. It didn't look like they were excited to play. It didn't look like anybody had any extra energy out there, especially early on in the game. You would think you get the first drive. They got a couple first downs. They're moving the ball. Like, yeah, we can move the ball on these guys. And look, our defense is balling. Like, we have a chance. We're in this game. Let's give a little bit more energy and then see what happens. Like that to me was probably even more disappointing than a lot of the other stuff outside of the turnovers and the drops. Like, just give us some energy, give us a chance. I know I was calling for some of that from Spencer Rattler, coming into this game, because we haven't seen like that fire that Baker Mayfield plays with, even though he didn't play his best game today. I don't think he played awful, but like, it's hard to get this guy on the ground. He scrambles. He makes a play with his legs. He throws the ball downfield and gets them a first down in a play when he probably should have been sacked. Like, that energy is contagious, and the guys around him feel that. I just don't feel that from either of these guys. Maybe it's because they're nervous. Maybe it's because they just don't have enough experience at this point. I don't know, but it's puzzling. Like, I just don't know what we're watching a lot of the time. Yeah. And we should know, 8 weeks into the season.
Yeah, Dylan, I want to retort to that, and then I want to ask him a question, because I think it is important. So I think there was a moment in which it felt like the energy was going to be there, and it was after the goal line stand. It felt like, because to me, DeMario is the energetic leader of this team. I don't know if that exists on the offensive side of the ball, to be honest, but he's not only the leader, but he's the guy who, if you need to be plugged in, if you need to get some juice, I think DeMario is one of those guys. I think Alante is one of those guys. I think the defense has juice players. I don't think the offense does. But the one moment where it felt like momentum and energy was coming in, it was the goal line stand, immediately followed by the pick six. And I think that crushed all the energy you could have. Now, that's my response, but I want to ask you, because you played with Sean, right? You played for Sean, and he was a highly energetic coach, and I know he could always instill that. To me, from the outside looking in, Kellen Moore is a more calm coach. Like, where do you get that juice from? Does the coach need to insert that, or is it you got to find it from the players? Is it different on each team? I think you have a different experience with the coach that you played under in New Orleans, so I wanted to ask you.
Yeah, I mean, I think it should not have to be provided by the coach. The coach can't take any snaps. The coach can't make any plays. Like, it should be, and I would say that the teams, in my opinion, that are usually the better teams are player driven. Okay. They're not coach driven, right? Like, they have their leadership in the players. They have their moments. They get their energy. Like, all that should be coming from the players. A coach can try to provide, but again, the coach isn't playing quarterback. The coach is not playing linebacker or DB. Like, it should be incumbent on the guys who are in between the white lines to bring that energy. It should not have to come from the coach. And again, we're talking Pee Wee football, maybe high school football. You might have to manufacture some energy somehow from outside. But in the league, nah, man. No, that's got to come from the players. Like, those guys have to give the energy. Everybody can't be out there with reserved personalities and think that stuff is going to go well for them all the time. Like you have to, even if it's not like, I don't know, that specific scenario, the energy was sucked out of the building, which is what Jonathan Vilma said on the telecast. Okay, but the score is 7-0.
Yeah.
Right. We're not talking about a situation where we're down, a score or two, but we got the stop. Now we can go down and get a score and make it a tie game or a close game. It was literally 0-0 when that interception happened. Okay, we're down 7-0 now. Let's go. Let's get back right. Like, pick it up. Like, that's where my mind was at in the moment, because a play like that is terrible, but it's not catastrophic. Yeah. The guy made a great play. Great. Spencer Rattler could have thrown a different type of ball on that play. Great. He didn't, but we're only down 7-0. Let's play ball. Plenty of game left, know?
Yeah.
And it's unfortunate that, like you said, it doesn't seem like there's a big energy guy on the offense. And even if there were one that was not the quarterback, I don't know that it would be enough, honestly. I just think that, especially on this team, like, you see Shaheed and Olave try to give some energy from time to time, but when guys are catching and fumbling or dropping balls, it's kind of hard to be like, oh yeah, I'm rocking with that. You know what I mean? Like, it just is.
And speaking of Olave and Sheet, it's just crazy that we're in a game where they have 9 catches and 8 catches respectively. Then you have 3 points on the board and you lose. Rashid Shaheed has 9 catches, but the longest one went for 10 yards. And it's like these plays just, I don't know, it's just, man, you need out of these guys.
Tyler Shough did miss a touchdown pass to Shaheed late. I mean, just give him a little bit more air or keep the ball on the field. And that's a walk-in touchdown. So, like, I'm not even mad that he missed that throw, right? Like, he's a guy coming off the bench. He's cold, like, and he's not getting a lot of reps with those guys in practice. Yeah. So, like, the timing thing will be something that comes later. But I do think that the energy thing is palpable even from the television. So that's something that they got to get fixed.
Yeah. Well, we'll talk a little bit more about the, Tyler Shough, Spencer Rattler, all that coming up next as we delve into, what happens next in the quarterback room after this game coming up next. This episode is brought to you by PrizePicks. You and I make decisions every day, but on PrizePicks, being right can get you paid. Don't miss any of the excitement of this sports season. Whether you're following the NFL, NBA, or both, there's no better time to jump in on the action. If you haven't tried it yet, PrizePicks is the simplest way to play. Just pick more or less on 2-player stats, and if you get them right, you win. It takes less than 60 seconds to make your lineup, and you can win anywhere that PrizePicks operates, including California, Texas, and Georgia. I like to use PrizePicks, especially right now. It's the most fun time of the year for me because I love watching the NBA. I love watching NFL. And like on a Sunday like today, there's both. You can get in on the fun in a bunch of different ways. So, what are you waiting for? Download the PrizePicks app today and use code LOCKEDONNFL to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. That's code LOCKEDONNFL for $50 in lineups after your first $5 lineup. PrizePicks. It's good to be right. And fellas, let's be real. Making excuses doesn't solve everything. You're going to hear a lot of excuses today. Doesn't always work. We've heard them all before. It's just stress. I'm tired. It happens to everyone. Dylan, come on, the Saints game was hours ago. Why are you still like that? And then you say, well, did you see the LSU game last night too? And then the conversation just stops, and then you roll over the bed, you turn on the lights, and the night's over. But when it comes to performance, sometimes your body just needs a little bit extra support, and that's where Rugiet comes in. Rugiet offers fast-acting, doctor-prescribed treatments for ED, designed to help you stop making excuses and start making moves. Rugiet makes it easy to get started. You just connect with an onboard certified doctor 100% online. No awkward waiting rooms, no in-person appointments. And Lance told me that his package came in a discreet box to where his neighbors didn't even know what it was. And he seemed really happy about that. And Lance, it was a great night. So visit Rugiet, RUGIET.com/LockedOnNFL to get 15% off your first order. That's RUGIET.com/LockedOnNFL. And don't forget to use our code so they know we sent you. Rugiet, stop making excuses and start making moves. Like Lance Moore in the end zone or in the privacy of his own home.
I make moves now.
All right, guys. Let's get into this quarterback conversation. Tyler Shough came into the game. He played a half. But I would also say, not to get too ahead of yourselves, I do not think he's the new starting quarterback of the Saints as of right now. We'll have, we can talk a little bit more about that. It was it wasn't all his fault. The plays weren't great. The throws weren't great, but he also didn't get much help that first interception. I want to hear Lance what your thoughts on that interception. It was a little bit behind, but he had both hands on it. Mm-hmm. Talk us through that interception.
Bro, he's got to catch the ball, man.
Yeah.
In like regular speed, you couldn't really tell. It looked like, the ball was taken from him. Once they slowed it down, he dropped that ball. He literally, the ball hit his hands, the ball was dropping out of his hands, and it kind of fell into Winfield's hands, who used his leg to kind of like secure the ball. You got, and I think, I don't know if it was Kenny Albert or Jonathan Vilman. He said, Tyler Shough threw the ball behind him. Come on, man. Yes, he threw the ball behind him, but the ball hit him in his hands. It's different if he threw the ball behind him and he got like a fingertip on it or something. The fact that the ball hit both of his hands, just catch the ball. And it's one of those situations where I think the receiver has to have a feel for where the defense is coming from. He threw the ball behind me. I know the defense is coming inside out to try to make the play. You got to snatch that ball out of the air. So what do I mean by that? That means you need to pluck the ball with your hands and snatch it into your body quickly, because there's a defender that's coming from the inside out to try to make a play on the ball. It's sure Tyler Shough can make a better throw, but Olave has to catch that ball. I mean, there's no way to excuse either side of, or I should say absolve either side of the blame there, because it's on both guys. But the reality is, you got, like I said earlier, you've got a cold quarterback coming in off the bench. Receivers got to help him out a little bit. Like, that's just the reality of playing a young guy that hasn't played a whole lot, and especially a guy that has not played the entirety of that game and all of a sudden is thrust into the action. Like, he's got to make that play, and the guys are going to have to help these quarterbacks out. I mean, that's the reality of the situation. And when you don't make plays like that, it's going to affect and impact not just that quarterback, but your entire team. And that play did. It was a big play.
Yeah. I'll say this. I don't know if they have the talent to help your quarterback out. It certainly hasn't been on display this year. It feels like Olave's ability to make catches that aren't perfect has diminished from last year. I don't remember him having this same struggle where if the ball wasn't right on him or if he had to exert a little bit extra effort. It feels like, I don't know, maybe his catch radius is different. I'd love to know what you think about that, Lance, but it just doesn't feel like Olave is making the same difficulty of catches that I've seen him make in the past.
Yeah, I mean, that could be, I don't think he's gotten worse as far as like his ability to catch the football. It could be he's thinking way more than he ever did in the past. And I do know, like, if you are in the play, right, or the ball is coming to you and you're thinking about anything other than playing naturally and letting your athletic ability take over, then you're going to struggle, because it's like, oh, here comes the ball, I got to catch the ball, and then you drop the ball. You can't be out there thinking. It's literally I think football is a game of instinct, right? The best players that we see on both sides of the ball are usually the guys that just have a natural ability to make plays. And it's not just in catching the football. It's in running with the football. It's in anticipating plays as a quarterback. It's in like allowing your eyes to take you to a play on defense that maybe somebody else wouldn't, that type of play they wouldn't be able to make. I think he's thinking a lot, and maybe I can't begin to try to guess what he's thinking about on those plays, but maybe it is like, okay, he got to play with Derek Carr before, and maybe Derek Carr was a little more consistent with his accuracy, and now these guys aren't as consistent, and he's thinking, oh man, this ball might not be here in the right place at the right time. Hey, maybe this quarterback's going to throw me into a defender and get me hit in the head again, like happened several times in the past. Like, it could be a situation where he's thinking less or thinking more and allowing his actual God-given ability to take over as in the past. But yeah, I mean, I don't think his catch radius has gone down. I don't think he has become a worse ball catcher. Pause. But I think that he's probably thinking.
Rugiet strikes again.
Yeah, I think he's thinking a little bit more than maybe in the past. That would be my biggest, I guess my best guess. But who knows? Like, I still an effective player. I do think that the role that he's playing now is not necessarily best suited for him. I think that's a big part, and that could be a conversation for a different day, because I could literally go on for an hour about it. But Chris Olave came into this league as a stretch the field, vertical, catch and run pass threat. We have not seen that from him this season.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm not saying he can't do the things that he's doing, but Chris Olave catching 2-yard out routes and then having to make guys miss to try to get a first down on 3rd and 6, that's not his game. It's just not. And so, the longer that he's in that mode, or the longer we're throwing him 3- and 4-yard passes, the longer we're going to see this level of productivity where he's averaging less than 10 yards a catch, where he's not able to catch and run. Like, that's what he does best. And I think that definitely is something that Kellen Moore should be addressing a little bit more. I understand Shaheed is a similar skilled player, down the field threat. But even he isn't doing the things that Chris Olave is doing that I think are out of character, or, not the best part of his game. I think that Chris Olave is in a role that doesn't necessarily benefit him or the team as much as it could be if he was playing the role that I think he would be great at. The role that he's been great at in his career up until this season.
Yeah. Let's talk a little bit more about the Tyler Shough of it all, the Spencer Rattler of it all. The way I look at it is Tyler Shough, we talked about the receivers not really doing enough to help him, but also he didn't have the best day ever. I think what you needed to see for him to be like, okay, this is our guy, is literally anything that made it feel like, okay, this is the guy. He brought energy to the team. And while he didn't play horrible, I don't think he played better than Spencer Rattler. And again, that's not all his fault. He didn't have that chance to practice all that much with these guys. He didn't get the chance to have like these past couple of weeks of playing. But you look coming up on the schedule, you have to go to Los Angeles, you go to Carolina. Do you want to set Tyler Shough up with these games as his first starts, or do you go back to Spencer Rattler, see what he says, see what he does, how he responds? Darian, what are your thoughts right now?
Me personally, I understand that. And that's the reason I probably wouldn't have benched Spencer Rattler in the middle of this game, to be honest, because I do understand the idea of, okay, do I want to set him up and have him in a more favorable position? But I kind of feel like the moment's here. I feel like the writing's on the wall. I feel like going back to Rattler is only delaying the inevitable. And I think Kellen understands that. I think that's why he made this move in the middle of the game. The Saints didn't just need juice against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. The Saints need juice, period. And I don't know if I'm necessarily judging Spencer Rattler's prepared. I took all the snaps in practice versus Tyler Shough, you running with the scout team. I don't know if I'm doing that as a one-to-one comparison. We are in game, 8? That was 8, right? So we have 9 games. At this point, I'm putting in Shough. I'm taking the good, the bad, the ugly. I'm giving a 9-game evaluation. That's a little bit over half the game, or half the season in this 17-game season that we have now. And I'm getting a full evaluation of who he is, me personally. And like I said, I understand your point about maybe feeling like going against Los Angeles is a bit of a setup. I wouldn't have made this move. Once I've made this move, I am now putting in Tyler Shough. I am beginning that era. I just think it's time. And let's not delay the inevitable. We know that Rattler's probably going to struggle against the Rams, and then you're going to end up maybe putting him back in the halftime of that game and then starting him in Carolina. Let's cut out all that middle. Let's just get to it, in my personal opinion.
I'm going to play devil's advocate. I think that allowing Tyler Shough an opportunity to play in this game the way that he played, I think that's the reason you go back to Spencer Rattler for at least this Rams game. And to your point, if Tyler Shough came in this game and he's lights out, then he becomes the starter no matter what, right? Like he leads a touchdown drive or 2 or 10 points even. I think he becomes the starter for the rest of the season. I don't think it's a recipe for success starting him on the road against a playoff team in the Los Angeles Rams. I just think that is a recipe for disaster. I think he is set back by what that defense could do to him and his confidence. Now, if Spencer Rattler is awful against the Rams, I could see them starting Tyler Shough against Carolina. I also understand that with the bye week coming up, you could potentially give Tyler Shough 2 weeks to prepare for that first start at home. It's at home, right, against Carolina? I mean, I think
it's on the road against Carolina, and it's at home against Atlanta.
Against Atlanta. I mean, like I think that would kind of be the perfect scenario for him to come home and start like his first game. But again, there's no perfect scenario at this point with this team that's 1-7 and still trying to figure out if they've got a quarterback for the future. Like there is no perfect situation, but I do think he goes back to Spencer Rattler. Let's see how he handles this adversity. If he plays poorly, we'll put Tyler Shough in again, and we'll start the clock running from there. But I don't know. We'll see.
And I'll add this. I also think that's what Kellen Moore does. I wouldn't even. I guess I'm trying to balance the idea of saying what I think Moore would do and also saying what I would do, because I wouldn't have put him in this game. Once I made that transition for pretty much an entire half, maybe a quarter and a half. I think that would have been my move to start transitioning quarterbacks. But that's just me. I do think that Kellen Moore thinks a little different than Darian, a lot of what we just said. So I do think he goes back to Rattler. Let me say this about what we saw on Sunday. The difference between Spencer Rattler and Tyler Shough not being noticeable is the same reason that Tyler Shough didn't start the season. It's the same thing we saw in training camp. It was the same lack of being able to separate yourself when opportunities presented itself, right? I think that's what we saw throughout the offseason. It's what we saw in this game. And honestly, I don't know if that's ever going to change. I don't know if you put Shough in, if he's going to immediately make you say, dang, we should have had him in this whole time. I don't know if Shough is going to do that. Unfortunately, you're just going to have to say, we want to see Shough. I think that's going to be the deciding factor. I don't think that Shough's going to decide it. We heard whispers about, this is the regime's quarterback. They just drafted him. They're waiting for him to show you. Hey, look, man, I don't think he's going to show you. I think Rattler's showing you something that you don't want to see. And that may just have to be what moves you at the end of the day. As unfortunate as that is as a fan, as unfortunate as that is as an evaluator of talent, you're just going to have to say, we want to see it.
Yep. All right. Well, let's talk a little bit, something maybe a little bit more positive, and the defense side of the ball, because they look good. There are struggling youngsters that played well in this game.
Yes.
And so let's talk a little bit about them coming up next.
Yeah.
Guys, NFL season is back. NBA season is back. And now is the best time to go and see your favorite teams play in person. There's nothing like being in the stadium surrounded by fellow fans cheering on your team. But let's be honest. Getting tickets can be a hassle, and sometimes it doesn't really feel like it's worth it. There's long queues, login screens, prices jumping out at checkout. It's all pretty frustrating. That's the way I use Gametime, and I really do. It's the easiest app out there. It gives the advantage back to the fans. It's a fast, easy, and is backed by the Gametime guarantee. You always get 100% authentic tickets delivered on time and at the best price. Plus, my favorite part, all of the fees are included on the front end, so the price you see is the price you pay. I'm pulling up Gametime right now, and in just a couple of taps, I'm seeing Pelicans tickets for $14. There are Saints tickets for around $23. It's pretty fun. It's the best deals on the market, without a doubt. So download the Gametime app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, that's promo code LOCKEDON NFL for $20 off. Swipe, tap, ticket, go. Download Gametime today. All right, let's talk a little bit about the defensive side of the ball. And I think where I want to start is because we've started with him before. Whenever we're talking about the defense doing poorly, let's give some light and some shine to Kool-Aid McKinstry. He was targeted 7 times in this game, 2 catches for 9 yards. That is what you need your cornerback 1 to do. You need to lock up and play well. He also logged a pass breakup. He looked confident. He had that great play in the end zone. It was a great day for Kool-Aid, and I know who Darian thought I was going to talk about, but we're also going to get to him. I just wanted to talk about Kool-Aid because I think he's a little bit more of an exciting player because he's young. He's been struggling for this season, and we're trying to see him take that step, and this is the type of game he needs to have to take that step. Darian, you talked about him in our group chat during the game. Give some shine to Kool-Aid.
Yeah, I thought Kool-Aid was a very refreshing player today. Hey, all right, tip of the hat. No, but no. Okay, so in all seriousness, I think that the thing that we saw this season that was his best moment was against New York. And when he came back in the next game and he struggled, one of the things I said was that New York doesn't have any wide receivers. That was my retort immediately after that game. And I think that was the Patriot game that came right after. This time we saw him make plays against wide receivers that have performed well, whether it was a fade attempt in the end zone, back-to-back plays. Baker Mayfield looked at him. Baker Mayfield targeted him. One time, I think it was the only route on the field, and he clearly had it clamped up, but Baker said, I got to throw it. And there was a great contest. It was great coverage at the beginning, all around phenomenal play on back-to-back snaps. You saw him guard against Ibuka. Like, this is not defending Jalen Hyatt. This is not defending Darius Slayton. This is defending a guy who has been raised.
Jalen Hyatt catching strays out here.
I think this is the second time I shot at Jalen Hyatt.
Darian hates Jalen Hyatt.
But it's not Jalen Hyatt. Let's look up I have to look up the Giants wide receivers, right?
It's Jalen Hyatt, Big Base Lay, yeah. Lance.
I think you in order to be an elite corner, you have to be able to shut those type of guys down. And like you mentioned, Ibuka, who's a legit bona fide potential wide receiver one and a star in this National Football League. Well, he ain't the guy that you line up at the 1 and 2 yard line and throw fades to. That's not his game. It's just not. So Kool-Aid, if he wants to be a legit number one guy, he's got to lock that up just like he did. Sterling Shepard spending 15 minutes at the line of scrimmage trying to win on his release, doesn't win on his release. Kool-Aid beats him to the ball, should have picked that ball off, right? But like, you have to be able to lock that up. Now, if Mike Evans is on the field, we're having a whole different conversation, right? 6'5", the right body type to catch fades down there. And Baker Mayfield probably throws him a rainbow, right? So he can go up and catch the ball. That's what the type of matchup that he's going to get regularly, but he can only contest those who are out there competing against him. And he did a great job at that today. I think showing some grit and some toughness and not just out there rah-rah talking, actually making plays. That's what you want to see from Kool-Aid. Now, can he do it against the better competition? That's what we need to see. But again, I mean, definitely if we were to give out superlatives for this game, he would be one of those guys that is getting a player of the game nod because he played well. I mean, you can't take anything away from him. Like, he did his thing today for sure.
Yeah, and the guy I thought that Dylan was going to talk about is Chase Young. I think both of those players, right? Like, I wanted to see so much. That's a lot. I wanted to see a lot from Chase Young. I had actually kind of given up a little bit of hope on Kool-Aid. I'll be honest. I was kind of down. I was like, hey, it's not going to happen. He's not going to have that moment. I'm not saying this is going to be the turning point for him, but I was doubtful that he would even have that moment in this game. I thought we would see quite a few times where you had Ibuka catching the ball and Kool-Aid's a couple of steps behind him. I thought that would happen. So I'm very happy that it didn't. But to Chase Young, when he made the sack early in the game, when he had the strip sack of Baker Mayfield, this is what we wanted. And if we have, I guess, every weekers, typically we say every dayers, but this is twice a week. So if we have every weekers on this show. You were here last week when Lance and I had our conversation about pressures. And the thing about pressures is if you don't get sacks, we don't really care about your pressures. No sacks, your pressures, it becomes a moot talking point, right? But when you're able to get to the quarterback and maybe you don't always bring them down, maybe you affect them, but then you get strip sacks, and then you get a half a sack. And when you start doing that, then we can start having conversations about pressure. Then we can start having conversations about sacks. Then we can start having conversations about your impact on this defense. And it felt like we truly saw at the beginning of the game, one of the better consistent pass rushes that we had seen from New Orleans in a half of football. And it wasn't just sacks here and there. It was pressures and sacks and consistently just getting all around Baker Mayfield and disrupting him.
Yeah. I'll be honest, I wanted to save Chase Young a little bit because I thought Ross, the second half of our post-game shows, he usually sometimes comes, sometimes doesn't. He wasn't able, I don't think he's able to make it this time, but I wanted to see if he showed up because he did predict the Chase Young sack game finally happening.
Well, let me say something to try to buy some time, Dylan, because I meant to say this during offense. One, Brandon Cooks apparently exists, and that wasn't known until Tyler Shough came in. That's one. It's not that. Let's note that. And then secondly, I would like to see Devin Neal get some rushing attempts. I understand that the game went the way the game went, and Tyler Shough ended up throwing the ball like almost 30 times, if not reaching 30 attempts on the day. Or he right at 30. So he threw the ball a lot when he came in. I understand the flow of the game told him to throw the ball. But Devin Neal didn't see any rushing attempts. And for the health of Alvin Kamara, which is why I thought Kendre was a great part of the offense. But then also, I really want to evaluate Devin Neal and see what he can be. So moving forward, I would like to see more touches out of him in the run game. He had 3 catches, and I thought he had some good pass protection snaps. But I would like to see him run the football as well. He had 0 on Sunday.
Today would have been a great day for those kind of things to happen on offense because you get such a good game from your defense.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
The Bucs had 29 carries for 88 yards. You feel happy with that. That's 3 yards a carry. Baker Mayfield was 15 of 24 for 152 yards, sacked 3 times. You feel great about that. No scores. But you just could not get anything going on the offensive side of the ball. And anytime you kind of did, there were 4 turnovers again. 4 more turnovers. That's 8 in was that a couple weeks ago? They had another 4 turnover game. That's 8 between those 2 games alone. Impossible to win whenever that happens. Like it's terrible football.
Well, yeah, and you have to play complementary football, especially in a divisional game. Your offense has to help out your defense. Even if your offense isn't scoring all the time, you can't turn the ball over. You can't give the other team short fields. Like, you have to find a way to maintain possession to give your defense a break. And the offense just didn't do that today. But while we're supposed to be talking about the defense, I think, I would be remiss if I did not mention Demario Davis. Bro, just energy, effort, enthusiasm, playmaking. I mean, that tackle he had on the goal line where he just shot the gap and stopped the running back in his track. I mean, one of the oldest players on your team continues to be one of your best and most consistent players. The young guys should take note and try to emulate. I don't know, give us something. I mean, he continues to show up, and just when you think oh, he might be getting older, I don't know if he's going to be able to last the whole season, he has a game like this, and it's fun to watch him play still at the age, I think he's 35 now, maybe 36, but still fun to watch him play because of the way that he plays and the impact that he has on the defense, for sure.
They used the heartbeat of that goal line stand, right? Like every play.
He's the heartbeat of the team at this point.
Heartbeat of the team, right? But on that stand, even when he doesn't shoot in and make the tackle, he was coming forward and just absolutely rocking the interior offensive lineman, helping the ability to just muck up that center of the offensive line and have guys crash in. I don't know how many tackles he was credited with on that drive, but I would say he was credited, in my mind, with 2 to 3 playmaking moments, whether it was a tackle, whether it was just stuff in the offensive lineman, whether it was, coming in late. I thought he was like you said, Dylan, heartbeat of the team always. But in that moment, you really got to see it. I don't think that you get that goal line stand if Demario Davis isn't there. Throw some out there. I was thinking about this. When are we going to start talking about Isaiah Stallbert a little bit more in his role? I feel like he's done enough to where I know we talk about Stutzman a lot, but I like what Stallbert is showing, whether it's in a third down role, whether it's rushing the passer, because I think he contributed to one of those sacks. I don't think he was registered the sack, but he helped make that play. I know we talk about Stutzman, but I feel like, do we need to have a conversation of, if Pete were to get traded or if Pete were to be sat down, would it be Stutzman or Stallbert? Or are we just going to look at it as the same role where Stutzman takes over for Werner and then Stallbert comes in as a third down guy?
Well, what I was gonna say, they kind of, I think they know what they have in each guy right now, and they both can contribute in some way, but maybe not in all way. They're not 4-down linebackers right now. So you do see Stallbird come in for the passing downs. You see Stutzman in on more like obvious running situations. And I think that works. And the thing is, you want to see those young guys play, but total, they played 16 snaps in this game. And you have another player that was the lowest graded player on the team who had, just another poor performance, taking up another 24 of those snaps.
Who? I'm sorry, I'm a little slow.
Pete Werner. Pete
Werner.
My bad. Pete. We've talked about a lot on this one. Just not.
He did have one nice tackle.
He did.
Very nice form tackle.
You're talking about. He did.
Yeah, he had one. That's good. We're getting there. Year 5. Year 5. Or whatever it is for him. But maybe they'll find another linebacker, maybe not with the first overall pick, but in the draft. We'll see a little bit more of the draft coming up next. Let's talk about the best thing that Lance has seen all day. It's the fact that the Saints have the number 1 overall draft pick. Guys, betting season is here. Football season's here. Basketball season's here. It's time to download FanDuel. Even when you miss the start of the game or you want to ride the hot hand, FanDuel has live bets on everything from who will score the next bucket to fourth quarter comebacks. Plus, you can even combine your live bets into a same-game parlay for, that game or a game later in the day for a shot at bigger payouts. It keeps every game exciting, especially when your team's making that late push. Right now, FanDuel is giving new customers $300 in bonus bets when your first $5 bet wins. You can go to FanDuel.com, $300 in bonus bets when your first $5 bet wins. And like I said, I prefer right now to combine the NFL and the NBA to have some more fun. Maybe one day I want to have, Aaron Gordon to score 15 points and Baker Mayfield to rush for 15 yards. That's something that's possible. And it's something that I did today, and it didn't work because the game was over and Baker Mayfield didn't have to do that. Me personally, I thought it was good because I thought it was going to be those almost sack situations that he runs for a first down. And, history was on my side, but reality wasn't. But maybe you can be right. And if you bet $5, your first $5 bet wins, $300 in bonus bets are coming your way. So head to FanDuel.com to sign up and play your game with FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. All right, let's close it out today by talking about the biggest news of the day for the New Orleans Saints. It doesn't matter who's playing quarterback right now. It doesn't matter what the defense did. It doesn't matter what Olave is doing. The Saints have the number 1 overall draft pick right now because the Jets won, and then it didn't matter for the first overall pick right now, but the Dolphins also won today. And you're seeing these are the weeks you need. I mean, the Titans got blown out by 30 points or whatever it was. That's going to be an interesting game. And I think that is the biggest thing keeping the Saints from having the number 1 overall draft pick right now is that they play the Titans. And that is going to be the least watched game of the season.
Or maybe the most.
Or maybe the most. I'm gonna be tuning in.
Sure.
But first overall draft pick. I'm not saying that right now you have to be like, oh man, Tyler Shough was bad in this half. They got to draft a quarterback. But if you have that first overall draft pick, it's hard not to consider like a Fernando Mendoza right now. Where are y'all's thoughts on the team right now? Draft process. How are you feeling? Let's start with Lance.
Obviously it's way too early. We don't know if we're going to get number 1, but we are sitting at number 1 and we're looking for something to celebrate. And we here at the Saint Squad show, we like to live our life on the edge a little bit and talk about things that may or may not happen in 6 months or more. But I think having the number 1 overall draft pick, to me, the most important part about it is you have options, right? Mm-hmm. You can go quarterback, you can go best player in the draft, or you can go, you know what? There's going to be teams calling to move up to get said quarterback that everybody thinks is the number one guy. We could get a haul of assets by trading that, which I would actually lean that way, probably get a haul, because this team is more than just a quarterback away, in all honesty.
We saw that today.
In my opinion, it's not just about the quarterback with this team. So being able to stockpile draft picks in this 2026 draft and potentially in the future, to me, that is more important than, I think, the ability of whoever these quarterbacks are that come out in this 2026 draft class are. That's just where I would go with it, unless you fall in love with one of these other players that isn't a quarterback at number one, that maybe you don't think you could get a couple of picks later that could have a big impact on this team. I'm thinking a player like the pass rusher from Miami, was named Bain. I'm
a big fan of Ruben Bain.
He's a game wrecker. And a team that has not been the most explosive as far as their pass rush goes this season, you get a guy like that on your team, watch out. And so, like, I think that the fact that if we are the number one pick, we have options, that's a great thing. Now, the same people are the ones making decisions. And those same people have not made great decisions a lot of the last several draft classes. So hopefully, if we get the number one overall pick, they're able to get that right.
And Ross, what's up? You're looking like a man who just heard that Brian Kelly got fired.
I'm looking like it and I'm feeling like it, baby. I'm pro BK out of here. I can tell you that right away. I can tell you that right away. I said last week they should have looked at his his buyout.
Oh man, it's fun. That's crazy. That is what a lot of the world's talking about right now. But Ross, how are you feeling right now about this game?
Yeah, I mean, look, I think that this is finally sort of the moment that the New Orleans Saints needed. I think that there was a sense of them almost kind of waiting for this, right? Waiting for the opportunity to get Tyler Shough out on the field. And I think that they took it at a time that made a lot of sense. You guys know I was texting you during the Bears game saying that, if the Saints wanted like an opportunity to get in there where it was warranted, last week might have been the time to do it. I like that they gave Spencer Rattler an opportunity to respond, but the fact of the matter is that the entire offensive unit didn't necessarily get that. Spencer Rattler did not respond in the right way or in the way that it needed to be. The offense was stagnant, couldn't move. You had the forced fumble or the turnover. You also have, of course, the interception, which freakish play by the defensive end, but you got to know to get the ball up, even just to avoid the PBU in that situation. And so I think that for New Orleans, we just talked to Brian Kelly. Oh, excuse me, we didn't talk to Brian Kelly because he got fired. We just talked to Kellen Moore, who said that they were they were looking to try to get a spark for the offense. And I mean, I think it's pretty telling when you say I'm trying to get a spark and your attempt to get a spark is to change the starting quarterback. I think that speaks loudly. And so we'll see where the Saints go. He said he's going to take the next 48 hours to figure things out. There won't be a competition in practices. They're going to make sure that whoever it is that they're going with up against LA is getting the allocated snaps that they need at quarterback Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday, which I think is a smart move. And so, we'll see where things go. But I'm just glad to hear that they're not doing what DA did last year, to where they're like, oh, we're going to take it all the way down to Friday and then pick a starting quarterback. They're going to make sure that whoever it is that starts on Sunday is getting the reps that they need.
Yeah, and I think that's important for Shough. If you're going to go in and you're going to make your first start, let's not do the split time. You need to legitimately have a full week of practice before this. Because one of the things that we talked about, Ross, while discussing whether Shough will start or not, is if you're setting him up to succeed, if you're setting him up to fail. And I think we had that conversation around the competition, but that also extends to the preparation. So if you're going to legitimately make this move, you're going to start this transition, you need to start it when practice starts. So I'm 100% with you.
Yeah, I have to say that comparing DA and what Kellen are doing is I think it's kind of not the fairest comparison, right?
Sure.
Because from a player's perspective, everybody knows who's starting. It just might be that DA didn't want to announce it to let the other team know who the starter was going to be, right? Like,
I don't know.
I'm gonna those reps.
I'm gonna be honest with you. I was told by several coaches that, and I was told by people like even off the record that like this was, or anonymously rather, not off the record, but like that they legitimately split passing snaps during practices last year when they were trying to make that decision between Rattler and Haener. Like I think they did both those guys a disservice last year, especially picking Rattler, but then not giving him those reps. Like that was something that was backed up quite a bit.
Okay, well, that my bad. But
no. You're good. You're good.
I guess I'm just speaking to my experience with situations where people might have been a little bit banged up and not necessarily. I mean, and I guess that was probably a Sean thing too. Like I'm not going to let these guys know who's starting or who's not. You know, like that's you know, just to maybe not give out too much information. But you know, I do appreciate Kellen being open and honest about what's going to happen, and I think it's the right thing to do with both of those guys in a situation that is the one that we're currently in right now.
Yeah, big time, man. Like, I don't know. I think it's an interesting thing. Like the idea of like, are you setting him up for success or are you setting him up for failure is a really tough conversation because you put anybody on this offense, I think you're setting them up for at least a tough time, right? Like there's not a lot that's even outside of the quarterback position. There's not a lot that's going well for this offense. Drops, penalties, poor protection, you know, fumbles, all those other things. Like there's been a lot of those bigger question marks that I think are really interesting in terms of how you're setting somebody up to succeed or fail and whether or not the opponent actually has really anything to do with that to an extent. Like I'm not trying to be like overly negative or anything like that, but I do wonder how much, you know, you kind of set them up to struggle no matter what with the way that this offense has looked so far this season, and particularly over the course of the past couple of weeks, unless there's a major change in terms of how this offense executes moving forward.
Well, it kind of leans towards what we were talking about. What do you do at number one if you have the number one overall pick? Do you get a quarterback? Do you trade down? Do you draft this player? And I think it's an interesting conversation. I haven't done a whole study on the quarterbacks, but I'm kind of leaning towards if there's a quarterback that you feel like is a franchise guy and you have the number one overall pick, I'd pick him. I would. And I assume that if you have the first overall pick, that means that Shough probably didn't play well. I think that's a fair assumption to make if you're picking number one, not just high, but number one specifically. So I think I'd lean towards quarterback. I just wanted to draw back to that real quick.
Yeah.
It has been a interesting weekend of football in Louisiana, to say the least. Crazy.
Yeah, no doubt. Like, how many times do you see a head coach fired and a quarterback change for different teams in the same week in the same market? Like, it's a little bit of a challenge, or not a challenge, but like, I do not envy the news guys that have to talk about like every single one of these things throughout the next week. Or maybe I do actually, because they might. I mean, you know what you're talking about. You know what you're doing. There's no doubt about that.
Yeah, it is. You know, Lance, you never dealt. We haven't talked about this yet, but you never dealt with a quarterback change in New Orleans, or at least. But what is a talk us through what might.
In 2005, the Katrina Saints, right? Aaron Brooks was struggling. They benched him for Todd Bowman. AB came into the meetings, had his feet up on the desk and everything. It was kind of crazy. But look, I think at some point it's going to happen. We've talked about it, and I think everybody on that team is smart enough to realize that was going to happen as well at some point. So I think they're prepared for it. And I think hopefully they're able to kind of rally around Shough. But the reality is, I feel like I think everybody else here and John in that, what up, bro? In that we don't think it's going to look too much different, just because I don't think there's a big talent gap between the two of those guys. And I think after this season, we're going to be on the search again, honestly, whether that's for the 2026 draft class or sometime down the line. I just don't see it with either of these guys for the long term, unfortunately.
Yeah, I don't think that's an unfair assessment, Lance. Like it's not easy to land your next franchise quarterback when you had a franchise quarterback for a decade and a half, right? Like those guys do not grow on trees. You do not find those guys very easily. And we've seen that the number one overall pick at a quarterback at the number one overall pick does not instantly get you a franchise quarterback, right? And so it's going to be really interesting to see. Like, I don't know that 2026 is the end of the search for New Orleans, because the odds are that it's not. Like, it's got nothing to do with New Orleans. It's got nothing to do with any of that. It's just the odds are that typically you're in the search for a little while. But we'll see if the Saints get an opportunity now to look at their next guy or their next option for the rest of the season.
Yeah, well, the only decision that doesn't need to be made is your decision to come back here on Wednesday night as we talk more New Orleans Saints football. Thank you for listening to the Saints Squad Show. Check out me, Ross, Lance, and Darian on our socials for the latest. I guess John, too, if you really want to.
Go ask John what his favorite flavor of yogurt is.
Go ask John what his favorite flavor of yogurt is. But until then, be sure to keep up with Ross Jackson in Locked On Saints for all of your latest Saints needs, including maybe they do decide to change the quarterback. Who knows? Who knows? Good